So integrity. It's funny because even as I say that word, I notice in my own system, and I kind of saw it in a few of your faces and your body just now, there's a little contraction. And I wonder why. Because we think of integrity as a positive thing, right? Yet somehow it makes us contract a little, tense a little, feel a little bit of stress. And the question comes to my mind, is that because maybe we have a judgment inside that goes, I'm not being as integrous as I can. Maybe there's a part of you that recognizes and goes, I know that this is really where I'm aligned and this is kind of what I'm doing. I probably shouldn't have had that chocolate cake, but I did. Or I'm skipping out on that class to come to this one. Whatever the reasons are, but there's stories, right? And those stories create this self-judgment, and those self-judgments start to bring us into this wibble-wobble of our integrity. And so before we really dive into asking what that means, what integrity is, I want to bring forward an idea that somebody, a friend just at lunch earlier, reminded me of. We have to be gentle with ourselves, compassionate. Because as we dive into anything about our own being, how we see ourselves, how we see the world, as we reflect and introspect, we want to go with a kind eye. So over the week, as I've been kind of pondering this idea of integrity, I always choose the topics based off of what's just coming up in my life and what I'm feeling around in the community. So I hope this relates for a lot of you. As I was pondering over integrity, one of the things that kept coming up was first just trying to figure out how to define it, at least for myself. So as I said at the beginning, I want you to dive in with me. So ask yourself in this moment, what does it mean to you, integrity? I feel often in society, we see that word, integrity, and we associate it to expectation, obligation, duty, what I'm supposed to be doing that feels correct and okay. Then I'm in integrity. Maybe honesty. Certain traits that we're supposed to embody in order to say, now I'm being in integrity. What if integrity was simply being aligned with where you're at right now? Let's say you're going into work, and normally you are the best employee, or maybe it's your own business. You're the best at what you do, and you show up and you have so much energy. And then one day you're really sick, and you go in, and you don't feel like you did the best job that you could, but you know you could have done better. Do you judge yourself in that then? Some of you do. Some of you might think to yourself, I'm not in my integrity right now because I'm not doing what I know I can. But you're also not being kind to yourself because in that moment, that was the best that you could because you were sick. But how often do we completely skip the awareness of the present moment and our condition right now to the expectation of what we have given ourselves as an obligation? So integrity. Maybe it has to begin with just first being present. That's what I talked about last week. Because without that presence, how do you know where you're at right now? So we all have an image of where we want to be. And often we also have an image of where we think we are that feels like it's not there. And already we're judging. Already we're having this difficulty. Even the subtlety of a lot of us who come to places like Bali and say, I've come to make myself better, which is a wonderful thing. And I ask you to be really honest, radically honest with yourself. Is it because somewhere within yourself you think you're not yet enough? How often can we move from this moment in alignment? For me, what I've come to think of integrity as is simply alignment. Which means that first I have to figure out where am I right now and what is this moment? So that's the presence, right? And in that, then there's an aligning to it. If expectation takes you over here, but you're really here, you're misaligned. If past conditions and traumas keep you over here, but really now you're here, you're misaligned. And integrity isn't so much a duty, but rather it's the very ability for you to line up all the ducks. It's like taking the kinks out of a hose so that all the energy that is you gets to pour out. I mentioned a moment ago that sometimes you have a past, a history, baggage that you're carrying. And it may be traumatic, it may just be stories. And the fact is, it's in your past, right? And so you're already not there. So any focus, any attention, any energy invested solely in it already misaligns you. Because you're in the present moment. You're here. Even if your mind and all your attention is somewhere else. I like to make this distinction between memory and remembering. Memory is when we go back in time to something that's happened. We go into a memory. Remembering is to reconnect the membership. Remembering. It's to bring something forward into the present. So it can still be something that happened in the past, but bring it into the present moment where you have the power, the capacity, the presence to work with it. And the beauty of that is, again, as you start to unkink all those obstacles in that channel that's you, by just getting present, aligning, stuff starts to move through. And that past might come up and bubble out. And you actually have the capacity and the ability right now to deal with it. It's really difficult to go back in time. It's almost like you disconnect your own power cord from the outlet that's the present moment. And you go backwards over here to where your battery is really low, and then you try to deal with it. And some of us go the opposite way. We go, okay, well, I don't ever want that to happen again, so I'm going to go into the future over here, where the power company hasn't come in and plugged in yet. And so there's also no energy there yet. And we struggle, and we think that to grow, that to succeed, to celebrate in life, to feel the abundance that we're all seeking, takes work. That there's a progress, a process. Process is a very popular word in Ubud. How you doing? Processing. You all laugh because you know it's true. And that immediately says that there's this path of there's here and then there's here that I'm walking along attempting to get to the middle when I'm in the middle the whole time. So really it's just you're doing the splits like a good yogi. You're way over on both extremes. I'm talking a lot about the presence. By the way, I'm just letting it flow. So if I go from here to there, it'll connect somewhere, I trust. I'm talking a lot about presence and this idea of coming into the moment so that you can find alignment. And in the past, I always thought of presence as being the middle, right? The center. You have the past and you have the future, and then there's the present moment here. And the same went with how one reacts or responds in life. We have extremes, right? Sometimes we're really over here doing something, and then sometimes we're really over here doing something. And then we're like right in the middle, we're like, oh, I feel peace now. And all these spiritual practices that we do tell us you have to get to the center point. Stop being in the extremes like a pendulum swinging. I want to bring in an idea here. Because sometimes it's really hard to step off the pendulum to that center point when it's swinging really fast on those extremes. You're like, no, almost got it. Almost got it. You're trying to jump off a moving object. What if instead you realize where you are at, which is on the pendulum? You're swinging. And all of a sudden you're over here at this extreme. Now you're presently over here. And then you swing way over here, and now you're presently over here. Presence isn't about being in the middle of your life. Presence is about being wherever you are in your life. Does that make sense? Does that relieve a lot of you? It relieves me. And it's almost like in that moment of relief as you find yourself where you are, the clarity, the energy, the ability all suddenly comes up. Because all that energy and attention isn't now focused on trying to get you somewhere when you already are somewhere. Let's come back to integrity, though. Can I tell you guys a story? I love telling stories. So many ages ago in India, there was this very wise sage. And hundreds, thousands of people used to come to him for his wisdom, for his knowledge, for his help, for his healing. And one day he's sitting up on his chair and his little cushions, and he's got some of his apprentices sitting around him. And this woman who has been coming and following him for years, she comes with her son, a young child. And they walk up. She says, oh, Guruji, Guruji. It's India. Please, my son, he eats too many sweets. Tell him, stop eating sweets. Guru goes, yes, okay, bring your son, bring your son. So the little boy comes up and he's looking at him with these doe eyes. The Guru goes, boy, come back next week. So the mother takes, she's happy. She says, oh, next week the Guru's going to tell, stop eating sweets. A week goes by. She comes back very excited. Oh, Guruji, now please tell him. He's been eating sweets all week. He says, come here. Come back in a month. So again, they leave. She's still happy. She trusts this guru of hers. A month later, they come back again, very excited. Now, Guruji, please. His teeth are falling out. Yes. No, come back in 2 months. This goes on and on for almost a year. Until finally, like 9 months later, the woman comes, still complete faith in this man. Please, Guruji, tell him. Yes, come. Boy, stop eating sweets. Okay, go. Done. And one of his apprentices, the lady leaves with her son, one of his apprentices goes, Guru, but why? 9 months you have waited, you have made this woman come back and forth. Only to just say these words you could have said the first day. And the Guru goes, yes, but that first day, a week later, a month later, 3 months later, I still enjoyed sweets. How could I tell the boy? Integrity. To stand behind what it is you're sharing and expressing. And not just because it makes you more honest, but because that's where the power is. There could have still been an energy and a benefit had the Guru said that first day, stop eating sweets. Just his authority would have made a difference. But the power to create change can only happen when we find integrity in it. When we're aligned with our own internal power that pushes us forward in inspiration. Everything else is us kind of clawing and pulling ourselves forward. You guys get that? Have you ever had something come up in your life that just, it brought so much passion that you couldn't help but fall towards it? It wasn't that you had to run or climb or work or make any effort, but it's like you had to catch yourself. You were going towards it so fast. That's because you were in alignment. And the very integrity of that is what brought you forward. What if you could do everything in life that way? One of the things that I love to do all around the world, and especially here in Ubud, is to dance. And I remember one of the first times that I took more of a guided dance class. Not in structure, but in self-expression. The first instruction was, stand still and wait. I thought, well, okay, and then shake your hips and then move your arms. Then what? Wait. How do I know what to do next? You need to tell me. Wait. You know what happens when you wait? When you give the time and the space in stillness? Something moves you. Something elevates you. Something inspires you into motion. I'm willing to bet that a lot of you who nodded your heads when I said, did you feel a contraction in the word integrity, or have you ever judged yourself around whether you thought you were being the best yourself? I'm willing to bet that part of that was that you don't have clarity yet, and you're going, but I'm not doing anything right now. I should be doing something. Is that true for anyone? I get a lot of coaching clients with this issue. And they come up and they're like, well, I'm coming to you because I'm hoping you'll give me the clarity so I can get going with my life. I said, well, what are you doing now? Well, I'm not doing anything. Well, you're breathing. You're living. Where is it exactly you're trying to get going with your life? You're already alive. Somewhere along the way, we got this misconception that success, accomplishment, was in the future, rather than being the essence of every moment. It's why with the goal-oriented mind, it's like being on an escalator, forever stepping backwards to see where you're going. We accomplish one goal and immediately we're like, I need to do something now again. I'll put another goal out forward so I can again work towards, walk a path, process. It's almost like we tell ourselves that if I have done some work, if I've given energy and effort into it, then it's okay for me to feel accomplished in it. then I can recognize that I have done something. What if it's not about doing, but rather about being? That your integrity isn't based off of the achievement of a goal in the future, but it's about standing in the wholeness of who you are in the present. I often think of it like a painting that you've made, because each of us are brilliant painters creating a masterpiece of our own reality, weaving tapestries, whatever craft it is for you that expresses who you are. And we create this masterpiece. And then something shifts, things change, life is always evolving. And you realize, oh, this doesn't fit anymore. And so you start painting something new, and you paint it on top of the old one. Now, after years and years of doing this, you have this really thick canvas. You might feel a little heavy. And here's the thing with paint, which is an expression, and all expressions in life are temporary. It starts to thin. And as it thins, the old starts to come back through. And maybe that old painting, the reason you painted over it was because you thought, oh, this doesn't serve me anymore. I'll just hide it. I have moved on. I did the work. And that old stuff starts to come back through, and you're like, I thought I dealt with this. And it mixes with the stuff that's going on now, and you're like, I'm confused. What am I supposed to do? And again, I say, wait, stand still. Because all the expressions that you have painted on your masterpiece, onto that canvas, if you wait long enough, and for some of us it's going to be a long time, not because you have a lot there, because it can go in an instance, but because you're going to resist it, it'll want to wash away, and you'll be like, oh, but I like that piece, so let me hold on to that. You hold on to any piece, the whole painting of that era stays. And so you wait in that stillness, that presence. And it's almost like in that, it gives the ability, the possibility of it to completely clear. So now you have a blank canvas. And the first impulse is going to be, oh, okay, I've got all this space. Now I can start painting again and expressing. If you're moved to. But if you're not, still wait. Because you know what sometimes can happen if you wait long enough? An expression emerges onto the canvas. That's clarity, direction, purpose. When we move, let's say, from the mind to create an expression that we think is what's expected, this loops back around to our judgments around what integrity feels like. I'm supposed to be this way. And so we start painting that picture, but it's not who we really are at the core. It's not what's wanting to emerge from that canvas. I'll make it practical. Imagine growing up, your parents looked at you and said, we really want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or something. But it wasn't your passion. And maybe at the time you said, yes, okay, I will do it. And because you made the promise, you thought integrity was keeping it. But integrity is being true to you in that moment, not to expectations, not to obligations, not even to promises or commitments. But integrity is to communication of the truth in this moment and expressing it. How often have you kept yourself from a commitment, whether it be in relationship or business or family or anything, or even just personally a commitment to a practice, that you hesitated, you resisted because you thought, but what if I can't fully do it? What if I can't keep that obligation after I start? Well, you'll never start. Something that has freed me a lot is to think, okay, you make a decision. That's your first commitment. And in that decision, it gives you the ability to step one level up on the staircase that gives you a different view now. Now from up here, you're like, oh, now this isn't really what I wanted. I'm going to go over here now. And that's okay. You communicate it. You express it. That's integrity. Being in this moment, present, and seeing what's real and making your choices from there. I often say in these talks that choice, we think of choice as being like a diversity of possibilities, right? That we get to choose, oh, maybe I do this, maybe I do that. Those are decisions. It's different. Choice, there's only two things. Surrender or resist. That's it. It's your only choice in life. Surrender or resist. So in every moment that you allow something to move you, and maybe it moves you up on that next step, and then you look around, you can either surrender or you can resist. And in that choice will move you to the next thing. Now, to resist is either to step backwards, to hold strong, to just sit down and be like, no, I'm not moving. To surrender is to just be curious. And in that curiosity, you just kind of go, I don't know what's going to happen over here, but oh, there's cake. Explore. Can I tell you guys another story? Yes. You guys all think I'm going to do another accent. That's why you're excited. This one's a little more personal and vulnerable. So, in the process of my work, I've done a lot of workshops and seminars and retreats and different things for my own growth. And one of the things that I did back in the States was a weekend workshop where we really dove into catharsis. So catharsis being those emotional upheavals and releases that we get to have. Now the thing is, because I had a lot of experience in all of this stuff, and at the time I was very, very mental. Not in the crazy way, but I just thought a lot, which is also crazy. Every technique, every tool that they presented to help me release, to have that catharsis, I would mentally bypass. Because I'd immediately go, yeah, I know where this is going, so okay, you're trying to agitate this, and then I'm supposed to be over here and be like, it's not happening. I thought I was too smart for it. So they called in the big guns. A facilitator who we hadn't seen all weekend. She was literally called in from home. And she led the advanced level workshops that they had. She comes in, everybody else is like punching pillows and screaming and doing all this other kind of work. And she comes over and she says, let's just sit down, let's chat. I'm like, all right, I can do that. I'll sit down and chat. So we're sitting there and we're chatting. And she says, I get it. You've done a lot of this work. You kind of know the angles we're coming in from. I was also training with the organization to teach for them, so I really knew where they were coming from. She goes, so I get that, and all this stuff is there, and truth is, you probably don't even need the catharsis right now, but I just have one question. I was like, yeah, sure, what's your question? Aren't you exhausted? So, from what? She's like, being so fake. Whoa. Fake. Fake. This is why she was the expert. She go, whew. And I asked her, I was like, whoa, what do you mean by fake? And she goes, well, I can see it. You must be exhausted. You've been holding this fraudulent mask up for so long. And the thing is, her words sunk really deep in. And they hit something core inside me that I'm willing to bet even within all of you right now, you're going, oh, crap. He's going to go there. Because it's integrity. What I realized that day, and I burst into tears, like I was sobbing like a baby. It was beautiful. What I realized is that I had banked on all my accomplishments, all the goals that I had achieved, all the things that I had felt successes in because of the work that I had done. I had banked on it, deposited it in some big account, and said, look, I'm good now, because that's sitting there doing nothing. And a lot of times we do that. Even in the process of working towards something because we think we have to, we're doing it because we're saying, no, I have to collect something enough to where I've saved up to a level that I can say that I've achieved it. But that bank account means nothing because who you are, what you are, the real power of who you are is not sitting in a bank where all your wealth and abundance and resources isn't being used. And that was what she meant by, how are you doing with being fake? Because I had a mask that said, look, I've done it. I'm good. But for years, I hadn't done anything else because I hadn't been present to allow it. One of the reasons that integrity was coming up for me this week was because I was looking at it in that same respect, and even in the ideas of this year of silence that I'm in, where some different situations hit me hard, and I thought, I'm failing again. But immediately that means that I thought I was supposed to be getting somewhere instead of being somewhere. How many of you have ever struggled with that kind of a thought? Something's going on in your life and you think, I'm not getting there, I'm not doing it, I'm failing. Or maybe you don't even start. Probably more often the case. There's a speaker I heard once. can't remember his name right now. It's Jamie Kennedy, maybe? Or that's the comedian, I'm not sure. But there's a speaker around that name. Has a beautiful story. And he shared this beautiful idea. He goes, you know, see how much I can paraphrase it. When you were conceived, a little sperm went into the egg. And that little sperm was out of like 3 million other little sperms that got to have the opportunity, the potential of even that moment of passion that happened, that then it got to go in along with all its brothers and sisters, and it was like, okay, one of us is going to get there. And they're like fighting each other up, like, not you, me. It's like Star Wars in there, they're like, pew, pew. And then that one that did make it, out of all the odds, all the struggle, all the effort that may have happened before you were born, makes it, and he won. Or she won. So you already did it. There's nothing for you to achieve anymore now that that's happened. Your conception, your life, your existence is enough. I'll say that again. Your conception, your existence, your life is enough. There's nothing else to achieve, to do, to prove, to validate, or to become. You are your strongest and most integrous just being, showing up, like you are here now. And that's great for the mind. But what is it that knocks us off that path is the question. Because we get it, right? We see that as truth. You go, yeah. And then tomorrow we're going to be like, I'm failing again. I don't know why. 1, be gentle with yourself. And 2, and this is something I love to bring into meditations, drop the goals and embrace the awareness. Drop the goals and embrace the awareness. You're going to feel like you're not enough, you haven't achieved, or you're failing if you're not present with yourself. No matter what, that's just going to be the case because you have divided yourself. If part of you is really here, but then all your mind and ideas and projections are over here, well, now you're only 50-50, 40-60, 70-30. Of course, you're going to look at one part of it and be like, that's not whole, it's not enough. And here's a tricky way that we do it often, and I think maybe this is one part of how we fall from that awareness. As we grow up and as we go through experiences and conditions, there are moments, because of our environment or the circumstance or the people around us, that we have to protect, right? We have to have a boundary or contract even for a moment. That's okay. You just got to remember then it's past and now you can open up again. But most of us don't remember that second part. And so over the years we have built brick by brick these walls and these borders. And after a while we have like a fence and then like a bolted door and then a moat. And there's the drawbridge over here, and we have dragons that we've trained to come down. All sorts of protections, right? They're called your defense mechanisms. And they get real complicated. You fool yourself with them all the time. All the energy, all the attention, all the work we put into building these walls is a percentage of your being that you are maintaining outside of you, like a bubble. And so it does two things. It separates you from the rest of the resources and world, and it diminishes your core. And so every time you look in, which I know a lot of us are doing in life, especially at this moment, we're going, I want to find out who I am inside. And then you look and you're like, I'm not enough. I'm going to look back out here. It's not that you actually aren't enough. It's simply that you have put so much of you outside. So again, in the idea of integrity, trust that you can put your walls down and know that the borders of who you are so that you know you're still safe, that the borders of who you are built not by walls and protections and defenses that keep out, but instead by the radiance of who you are and your wholeness that shines forward. And that creates your edge. And then you go walking around communities and people feel it. It's like tingly. In every single one of my talks, I bring up 3 principles that I feel are the core ideas of the beginner's heart. And I'll end this today with that. These 3 principles, they're part of the mission that I'm on. I'm on a mission to inspire 1 million hearts. When I finished my first year of silence back in 2012, I started the mission and I've continued it. The 3 principles are acceptance, permission, and expression. Acceptance, we've been talking about the whole time. It's just becoming present to the moment and recognizing the reality of what's here. Doesn't mean that you have to like it. Most of the time when we're struggling with acceptance, we don't like it. But you have to first recognize it, right? You have to get present to the reality, because if you don't, then you're working with a fallacy. You're working without the full deck. It's really difficult then. Then it's a process. And then once you have that awareness and you're present, then you give permission in that presence, because now you're in your wholeness to radiate out. And so bring all the doors, open them, open the windows, bring the walls down so that people can see who you are and what you're sharing. And that's your expression. It's automatic. You don't even have to do anything about it. It just happens like a natural smile or a laugh or a giggle. I'll share one more little story or idea to bring that home. Imagine you're walking along the road and you see somebody on the phone, and you have no idea what it is that they're having a conversation about, but what you see is this. They're like, what is this? And exactly what just happened just there, right now. There was no thought process. There was nothing that you had to think of, like, should I laugh now? I think I'll laugh now. I'm going to laugh now. You just laughed. Because in seeing an expression expressed, it gives immediate permission to you. And you don't need the reasons, you don't need the stories, you don't need all the mental structure that is the process towards the expression. All you have to do is say yes. Thank you.